Welcome to episode 56 of the Dance to Oneness podcast. My name is Amy Shine, and this is a part two of a topic that I covered a couple of months ago. The first part of this was living with an addict. Some of you might have heard of it, some of you might have not. It's a couple of episodes back. I think it was episode 54. And I said in that episode, I would cover the elements of living with an addict and what you can do within that situation to take care of you, tools and different perspectives you can use to help yourself in that situation. And then this part is for those that are in a relationship with an addict, looking at leaving the relationship or living with an addict and want to leave. And it could be also just looking at the addictions in your own life too. There was some things that I learned when I left the relationship I had with someone in addiction that really, really was a game changer for me in realizing the level of grief and sadness and loss and emotional disturbances I had to process after I left that relationship. That when I got that information, it really made sense why it's so hard to leave a relationship, to leave someone you care about and leave them in addiction. So I'm going to cover that in today's episode. Okay, so first off, let's look at when you are leaving a relationship with someone in addiction, you are really breaking up with the energy of addiction. For me, it was like I still loved the person I was with, I still cared about them, but I didn't want to live with addiction anymore. I had been through my own addictions. I had healed a lot of my own addictions, and then I ended up in relationship with someone in addiction. And even though I cared about them and I loved them, I didn't want to live like that anymore. I didn't want to live with someone drinking that amount every night. I didn't want to live with someone taking different prescription pills. That for me, it wasn't about breaking up with them, it was about breaking up with addiction. And I wrote a beautiful piece about breaking up with addiction, which I'll read at the end of today's podcast to you. And that will give you more of the insight into, okay, what does it mean to break up with addiction? Because addiction's everywhere, right? It's not just in our homes, it's in our neighborhoods, it's in our workplaces, it's in us. Addiction shows up not just in alcohol and drugs, it shows up in how we work, in how we become addictive to foods and sex and people and overworking and money and. Okay. So breaking up with the energy of addiction is also like looking at it in your world, and when you are in relationship with someone who is an addict, you are also in that addiction as well. And there's something that they're providing for you in that as well. So that was also what I covered in the last episode. So what I want to cover today is, why is it so hard to leave someone in addiction? Number one, when you care about someone, you don't want to leave them, especially when they are going through difficult times. You don't want to leave someone you care about. One of the things I had to look at was I had to get to the place where I cared more about myself than I did around trying to be a savior to this person, right? I had spent many years trying to help them, trying to get them to change, different ways of like, okay, what if we did this? What if we did that? And ultimately, I had to get to the point where it's like looked at like, did I want to live like this anymore? Like it was just beginning to get not beginning, but it started to become so hard to live with someone in addiction. One of the things someone said to me when I was leaving was, you would rather, because there was a night where I really needed to leave the house, and I really felt paralyzed in that I felt like I couldn't. And someone said to me, yeah, you would rather stay and abuse you rather than leave and let that person abuse themselves. And that was the piece. It was like I didn't want to leave. It was so hard to leave because I didn't want that person I cared about to self-destruct. I didn't want them to hit a rock bottom. I didn't want them to abuse themselves. I knew by me staying in the relationship, they would abuse themselves less if I was there. And if I was to leave, they would abuse themselves more. So that was why it's so hard to leave, right? You don't want to see someone you care about self-destruct. You don't want to see someone you care about abuse themselves. But what I realized was is that the addiction never stopped even when I was with them. It just slowed down. So me being with that person slowed down their addiction, but it didn't stop it. And I knew in me choosing to leave, their addiction would speed up. Their self-destruction would speed up. And that's why it's so hard to leave, right? Because you know that. And the hardest part is allowing someone you care about to destroy themselves. That's really hard to watch someone do that and to be on the sidelines for that. But you have to get to the point where you actually care more about you than you do about trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved. So caring for you in that situation is actually caring for them, because when you care for you, then you give them the choice to look at what they're choosing in their life. And they may choose to keep going with addiction, or they may hit a rock bottom, or they may stop. And everyone's rock bottom is different. Some people's rock bottom is ending up in hospital. Else's rock bottom could be, it could be something small. Some people's rock bottoms are small things, and some people are really big things. But as long as you keep trying to help them when they don't want to be helped, you are preventing them from hitting their rock bottom and from getting the help they actually need. Okay, so the piece that really helped me the most to understand, okay, after I'd left the relationship, why it was so hard. Like I had so much emotional stuff come up, like sadness, grief, guilt. Guilt was a massive one. Um, is because when you meet someone, you meet a partner, you connect with them, you have intimacy, all of this stuff. You're a lover, right? You're lovers. But when the person then starts to, maybe you start to see the addiction, and then you start to see different things in the relationship. And when you start to take care of them, like you want to take care of them, you want to help them, you want to try and make them better, you stop being a lover and you start being a mother. Um, you can't be both. You can't be a lover and a mother to the same person. So that relationship then becomes like you're a mother to this person, when it comes to leaving the relationship, it's like you're abandoning a child. It feels like that. You might not know that that's what you think you're doing, but somewhere, if you've been a mother to this person, you've been trying to help them, fix them, help them get better, you've become a mother to them. And when you leave, it's like you're leaving a child. It's like you're abandoning your child. And that can bring a lot of grief, a lot of sadness, a lot of guilt, right? You want to rescue them, you want to help them, you don't want them to destroy their lives. And that is the hardest thing to process. So, understanding then that this grief that you have, this guilt that you have, is really because you took on this mother role with them, can give you like a deeper understanding of how deep this actually goes. Right? Other people would be like, he doesn't want to change, or she's an addict, move on. And they'll say very like surface level stuff, like move on with your life, find someone new. But you have a lot to process in that. Like if you've been taking care of this person, trying to help them, really just being a carer to this person, then there's a lot of emotions you have to move through when that relationship is over, when you leave. And that's why it feels so hard. And then the other part of it, a lot of us, when breaking up with someone in addiction, and if the person doesn't choose to get well or go get clean, the hardest thing then is that we actually have to do no contact, where you don't respond to the person, you cut contact with them. And then that's another part where you feel like you're abandoning them, you feel like you feel responsible for them. So I think in that I went through phases of no contact and then opened up contact again. Um, people will have different advice for you, and people will say you need to do this or you need to do that. At the end of the day, you have to be okay with you and what you're choosing. So you may get suicidal messages from this person, right? And you can choose to not respond, or you choose to respond. But you have to look at whatever you're doing, that you're okay with that choice, that you're good with you, that you can sleep at night. And for me, the when someone reaches out and they're in a and I care about this person, of course, and they're in a really bad place, and I can take that call or I can respond, um, or I cannot. For me, have to play the tape forward and realize if I don't respond and something does happen, am I okay with me? So there's been a few times where I looked at that and then I wasn't okay with not responding. So I did respond, or I did reach out, or I did make contact back. And then there was times where it was like what I got back was that person putting the responsibility on me for their life, and basically saying like, yeah, if I, giving me suicidal threats that they were going to take their own life and it was going to be my fault. So once that came through, then I was like, okay, this doesn't work. You don't get to make me responsible for your life. And then I cut contact again. So it's all like, it's a journey. And I think you have to really be okay with wherever you're at in that journey. If it's, you break contact for a while and then you open up contact again, like you're going to be getting information as you go, and you figure it out as you go. It's really hard to take advice from other people in this situation. You can listen to other people, you can hear their experiences and their journeys, but at the end of the day, you have to be at peace with you and okay with you. I remember once calling someone's mother, who was the son of someone who was in addiction, and she said to me, like, that's what she said. She said, you have to be okay with you. You have to be okay with what you choose. If you want to reach out and talk to the person, reach out. If you don't want to, don't. She was like, don't listen to other people. She's like, you have to do what works for you in this. And so you can have therapists and, counselors and friends all tell you, AA programs tell you, what you need to do when you're dealing with an addict. But at the end of the day, this is a person. This is a person you care about, and this is your journey and unique to you. So you have to look at what is what is going to bring peace to you. And sometimes that is no contact, and sometimes it is contact. Okay, so they were the main points I wanted to make about this topic of leaving someone in addiction. I think if you are in this situation and you're leaving a relationship that of someone in addiction, having a good support network is so, so important. So you got to take care of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. Physical body, getting your movement in, working out, yoga, breath work, yin yoga also, like doing things for your nervous system is so important, because if you've lived with someone in addiction, you've been living with these highs and lows, and this very much a dysregulated nervous system you've been living with, and your nervous system is going to be dysregulated, and you're going to have trauma that you have to process. And so somatic practices like things that slow you down, bring you back to the yin, so you can come back to a sense of peace and calm in your nervous system. Because there also, when you're with someone in addiction, there's something about that highs and lows that you like, right? There's something in your nervous system that sees that as safe, and maybe doing the slow, quiet things you read as boring. And that was something I had to realize. Like, I liked the excitement of the relationship, and at that time, like if something that was quiet was boring for me. So that was where my nervous system wasn't healed, it was dysregulated, and I had to come back. Once I left that relationship, really come back to slower things like meditation, slow yoga, walking with the dogs, and really just finding peace within my own system. Mental things like meditation, things being in nature, and also, you know, um, just things that actually give you a sense of comfort. Emotional, I would say you require some support with therapists, addiction counselors, like anyone who has some experience in dealing with this, because not everybody knows how to deal with addiction. Spiritual, whatever spiritual practices you have that gives you that peace and calm within you. Okay. I'm going to read, to finish off, I'm going to read what I wrote about breaking up with addiction. So, addiction is an energy. It's an energy that exists in the world. May have grown up in a world where there was a lot of addiction, or where addiction was hidden. Was there addictions that nobody talked about? Was there addictions that was made acceptable? Was the addiction made normal? The energy of addiction is the energy of insanity. Checking out, leaving yourself, havoc, judgment. Addiction can show up in your own life. Addiction to alcohol, addiction to drugs, addiction to leaving yourself, addiction to abusive relationships, to mean people, addiction to trying to save other people, to healing those who don't want to be healed, addiction to relationships that are unhealthy, addiction to saving others. I made the choice to break up with this energy, to break up with addiction. I first broke up with addiction in my own life, and then I had to break up with it in others. I may care deeply for you. I will always love you, but I do not want to live with this energy of addiction anymore. I do not want to be married to the energy of addiction anymore. I do not want to sleep with this energy of addiction anymore. I do not want to share a house, a building, a space with this energy of addiction anymore. I am not breaking up with you. I am breaking up with the energy of addiction. I say no to this energy. I fine tune my reality, a reality of ease, peace, joy, lightness, brightness, and glory. This energy of addiction doesn't get to live with me anymore. I am the creator of my reality, and I create everything that goes on around me. I get to choose who stays and who gets to be in my space. I get to choose who doesn't. Addiction can show up anywhere. It shows up in the neighborhoods we live in the environments we choose to go into. It shows up in the people. It shows up in the dance. Do I want to dance with this energy of addiction? Is it time to end the dance with this addiction? I know it's familiar. I know it's all I've ever known. And I know as I turn away from the energy of addiction, I'm moving towards what's unfamiliar. So, what is bright and light and joyful is what is unfamiliar. Living in a reality that is energetically clean, clear, light is so unknown and unfamiliar to me that I may sometimes still invite back this energy of addiction. It can show up in very sneaky ways for me: overworking, staying up too late, staying in environments and in situations when I know it's time to go, dating that person who has the energy of addiction, living in a building or a community that has the energy of addiction all around it. When I see it, I get to break up with it again. I get to say, no, that doesn't work for me anymore. I'm choosing something lighter, brighter, and greater than this. Everywhere that addiction starts to show up, I get to choose something different. I can turn away from this energy and turn towards what I truly desire: a world of peace and oneness. The havoc of addiction, the entertainment of it, is so familiar, and now I make a conscious effort to kill this energy anywhere it's still sneaking into my life, and make the lightness, brightness, joy, peace more familiar than the havoc, than the insanity. Just because it's familiar doesn't mean it's greater. Turn to a different way, a different path, and make the demand, no matter what it takes, no matter who or what I have to lose, no matter what I have to gain. I am no longer in relationship with you, addiction. I'm no longer allowing you to live in my world in any shape, way, or form. I'm going on a path less traveled, and there may not be so many people on this path, but by God, there is a lot more peace and lightness. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the podcast, leave me a comment, click the 5 stars, leave a review. If you have any questions on anything I spoke about today, feel free to email me, reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram. You can find me there at amyshine.energy on Instagram, or Facebook, Amy Shine. Take care of you. Bye for now.